privilege to introduce our New York State Chairman, Nick Langworthy.
Thank you so much, Chairman Smith, and it's a great day here in Buffalo, and I want to thank you all for coming here today. And I'm very pleased to welcome, my friend Congressman Lee Zeldin to Buffalo. And this certainly is not his first visit. I think it's about number 6, if I have my count running, but I'm sure you'll correct me if not. He has been crisscrossing the state, barnstorming, building support and momentum. But this is his first visit since he became our presumptive nominee for governor of this state. Last week I convened for a second gubernatorial screening process all of the county leaders in New York State. From every corner of the state, they gathered for a second time in 3 months to hear from candidates that were interested in running for governor and for other potential statewide offices. And it was a huge showing. Nearly every one of our 62 counties was represented in the room across New York. And we came together and we listened and we had a dialogue about the future of New York and how the Republican Party is the best chance to save our state. And we wanted to get behind and coalesce around a single candidate who would be the best person to lead our state and the most likely to be victorious in November of 2022. And at day's end, we had a straw poll, and the results couldn't have been more clear. Congressman Lee Zeldin ran away with this vote. He received 85% of the support of our Republican Party leaders in the state. We have great Republicans and patriots who have stepped forward, but the vote for Lee was an unquestionable mandate of support and shows the strength and the momentum that his candidacy has taken across his state. He has the support of men and women who dedicate themselves to electing strong Republicans to office at all levels, year in and year out. These are the people that work tirelessly, day and night, to get out our candidates, to qualify them for the ballot, and to steer them to victory. They know what it takes to win. They know what it takes to listen to their constituents and what they're looking for. And they recognize in Lee Zeldin a winner, someone with a tenacious work ethic. The guy doesn't tire out. I think this is your 10th trip across the state, if I'm counting. Even more. As state chairman, I am so grateful that Congressman Lee Zeldin has made the decision to run for governor of the state. He was in a safe congressional district. He made it look easy. Even though it was a purple seat, he won it by 11 points in the last election, despite the fact they spent $12.5 million trying to take him out of that seat. And he could have sat in that congressional seat and been there for another decade. He could have been in a position to be a committee chair when the Republicans take the House in 2022. But he's burnt that bridge behind him because he understands the mission before us is that important. But he's done it his entire life. He's putting service before self-interest. And he told me when we first talked about the fact he was going to run for governor, he couldn't sit on the sidelines and watch as our state was destroyed by the radical left. And that ideology that's permeating our schools and our community institutions and certainly has festered within our government. And Andrew Cuomo's rampant corruption and mismanagement has destroyed the state that we knew and we loved. This is a man, Lee Zeldin, that answers the call of duty. He did it when he was enrolled in the Army, went to Iraq, and he still serves in the reserves as a lieutenant colonel. He did it when he served our state in the New York State Senate. He's doing it as he serves our nation yet again in Congress. And he's doing it now as he's giving us hope and opportunity to recapture the executive mansion and be the next great governor of the state of New York. He's a veteran, he's a patriot, and a man of true honor that will restore integrity and common sense to this state. Because common sense is exactly what we need to get back to. One-party Democrat rule, an incompetent governor that's corrupt, has been disastrous for the citizens of New York. Violent crime is gripping our cities, and Andrew Cuomo had the audacity yesterday to go on TV and declare a state of emergency. He's the one that let dangerous criminals out of jail. What did he think was going to happen? That those criminals were going to go home and play patty cake? He sentenced 15,000 New York seniors to their deaths in nursing homes because of that asinine executive order of March 25th, 2020. He engaged in a criminal cover-up of the deaths that the FBI, the U.S. Attorney, and the Attorney General, as well as the State Assembly, are all investigating. He's responsible for our worst in the nation business climate and the highest taxes. Cuomo is responsible for more than 1 million residents leaving the state of New York on his watch. And in Buffalo, we know all too well that he's responsible for failed, corrupt policies like the Buffalo Billion. Andrew Cuomo himself is a walking state of emergency, and we need to end his tenure in November 2022. And if we don't stop him, we're not going to have a state left to save. I'm here to fight for New York, and that's why I ran for state chairman. I couldn't be more proud to have Lee Zeldin lead the charge in this fight. And I've often likened the job that I have in my duties as the general manager of the team. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our star quarterback that's going to take this party to the next level and be the one that turns the corner and save our state. He's won 7 straight elections, and Democrats from Pelosi on down to Cuomo and state Democrats have thrown tens of millions of dollars to try to beat him. He's won every election by big margins because the people he represents know who Lee Zeldin is, and now the whole state is getting to know and see the man that Lee Zeldin is. And now I can't wait for the people of Western New York to get to know him. And he's going to spend the day here meeting with constituents and business groups all over Western New York, because by the end of this, you're going to be a Western New Yorker. Ladies and gentlemen, our next governor, Lee Zeldin.
Chairman Langworthy, Chairman Simith, it's great to be back in Buffalo. This is our 6th trip to Buffalo since announcing on April 8th, and I look forward to coming back so many times between now and November 8, 2022, and many times after that. And as I've been traveling around the state and having conversations with young families, seniors, job creators, and hearing about their breaking point right now. That business owner, when we were grabbing a breakfast when I first announced that first visit to Buffalo just a few days after that announcement, talking about how he was having trouble getting people to return back to work because the government is paying able-bodied adults more to stay at home than to go to work. Hearing from that community in the Bronx, where we were standing in front of the Riverdale Jewish Center, and a vandal was committing multiple offenses to different synagogues, terrorizing a community. I believe strongly in religious freedom. And we said then that this crime is being committed not because the person knows that they're not going to get caught. It's because they know that when they do get caught, that under the cashless bail law, they'll be right back out on the street. And sure enough, that weekend, that vandal was caught, charged with over 40 offenses, and immediately released back out onto the street. Talking to young moms and dads about their kid in June after 15 months of sacrifice, their generation sacrificing more than any other generation in this country right now over this period. And in many schools, classrooms don't have AC. We're not talking about them having to wear a mask for 20 minutes. We're talking about them wearing masks for 6 hours. And in some of these classes, they would take off their mask during lunch, and they're not even allowed to talk to anyone else because their masks are off. So they're sitting there, kids, inside of a school cafeteria, unable to socialize. You want to trust the science? You want to follow the data? Well, how about all across this entire country where the mask mandate was lifted, and you look at that data supporting the decision to remove that mask mandate here in New York. I personally don't believe that the COVID vaccine should be mandated in order to return to school in the fall. And that's not just grade school, we're also talking about higher education. From hearing from these parents where they're concerned about their kids, critical race theory inside of our schools, which shouldn't be in any classroom anywhere in New York State. We're talking about how opportunities for their son or daughter who may read at a higher reading level or do math at a higher math level and having advanced academics taken out of the classroom in the name of equity. A lot of New York parents concerned about their son and daughter's education. The cost of living, which is forcing that young family the decision, do I have my first kid in the basement of mom and dad's house, or do I move down to North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and be able to buy my own home, start my own family there? The public safety piece is one, as Chairman Langworthy was just pointing out, that this government, this one-party Dem rule, outsized power of self-described socialists, a person at the top who's busy pandering and padding his own ego, instead of doing the right thing, isn't proposing the reverse cashless bail, isn't proposing to support law enforcement more, not less, to keep qualified immunity, to make sure that those men and women who risk their lives to defend their family and their community and public safety, they, suffering from lower morale, are now submitting their retirement packets en masse. And unfortunately, as we've seen the NYPD, suffering from a surge of suicides. I could tell these stories from all across the state. I've been to all 62 counties. It used to be called the full Schumer. But I think we should start messing with Senator Schumer a bit. When you all see him, tell him that it's now called the full Zeldin, because we are the ones who recently completed that full 62 county tour, and we're already making our way around halfway through our second trip of visiting all 62 counties, and we'll do it over and over and over again, because all New Yorkers deserve to feel like they have a voice and representation in our state capital. Every single New Yorker, doesn't matter what region of the state you're from, doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, a conservative or a liberal, every New Yorker should feel like they have a voice, but unfortunately they don't. And they're leaving, and they're not looking back. Families are being split apart. There's a hunger out there, an emotion, a passion. People feel like this is a last stand. People feel like this is a last great opportunity to save New York. I'm in this to help restore our state to glory. Losing is not an option in this race. It's not an option for any of us. Millions of New Yorkers are ready to vote right now. They want balance. They want geographic balance in Albany. They want political balance in Albany. And Andrew Cuomo has been there too long. It's time for him to go. Term limits are a must. I wouldn't even run for a third term. I'd call on the state legislature to enact statutory term limits to prevent me from running for a third term, but even if they did it, I still wouldn't do it. And this governor wants to run for a fourth term? We're being reminded as he pads his pockets with millions of dollars from a self-congratulatory book deal and taking home an Emmy Award and constantly praising himself and taking care of his friends and family in ways that are resulting in even more investigations, that it's time for Andrew Cuomo to go. And we're going to make sure that it gets done. It's great to be back here in Buffalo again, and I do look forward to coming back dozens of times between now and the election and continuing to come back after, because everyone in Western New York, everyone in Erie County, everyone here in the city of Buffalo all deserve to have this change, because the status quo isn't working for anyone. We're going to have the backs of law enforcement and our veterans and our first responders, our educators. We're all in. We are all in. A 62 county strategy, no county too large or too small. And with your help, on election day, we're going to be victorious. On election day, we'll restore balance. And come 2023, we're going to start correcting all the damage being done every single day that we continue to be forced with the reign of Andrew Cuomo. Thank you again to Chairman Langworthy, Chairman Simith, for your strong leadership at the statewide level and here locally in the county. This is an important election in 2022, and for anyone out there who wants to make an immediate difference, let's do everything in our power to make sure that we're getting Republicans elected this November 2021. The best way to win in 2022 is to win these races in 2021. So get involved in your local Republican Party, Conservative Party, back your local Republican candidates. We need balance at every level. This is the first time we're going into midterm with one party Democrat rule at every level, DC, Albany, New York City. That alignment has never happened as long as I've been alive going into a midterm. Now let's do our part to correct it and save our state. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, let's start with the governor's gun violence state of emergency announcement yesterday. Was there anything in that 7-point plan that you thought was a good idea, or do you think it's all ill-advised?
Well, listen, the problem is that he is leaving out, the governor is leaving out all of the top points of how you actually get to the root of the problem. So if you want to have a conversation about other ways to deal with anything that might be a priority of our state, you have to first look, why do we have a surge in crime? And it's because instead of putting handcuffs on criminals, we're putting handcuffs on police. You have to reverse cashless bail. You have to keep qualified immunity. It's impacting morale for our law enforcement. You have to look at, why do we have the surge that we do? And you're seeing people who are, yes, being arrested for an act of crime related to possession of a firearm, but then you're immediately releasing them under your cashless bail law. The illegal use of a firearm or any of these other crimes, like I was talking about the violent anti-Semitic attacks that we're seeing inside of New York City. We saw it with the anti-Asian attacks inside of New York City. People being physically hurt, innocent New Yorkers being attacked. They need to know that this governor has their back, that this state legislature has their back, and instead, the real crisis, the real emergency that should be declared is that no one is fighting for them. There's this effort tripping over each other to stick up for the criminal. And unfortunately, law enforcement is being left behind. Innocent bystanders, victims are being left behind as well. So if there is anything that the governor wants to propose where an idea can be part of a solution or compromise, you have to be willing to first identify, why do we have this surge in the first place? And this governor totally ignores that in the way he approached yesterday's press conference.
You're a federal lawmaker still right now. Do you think that the state is superseding the PLCAA with this new liability law that the governor signed yesterday?
I think it's foolish because you have New York businesses that are going to move out of the state. And you're a business owner, if you're mobile, and you're seeing all the different ways that you are getting hit left and right, roundhouses, uppercuts, you're going to decide to go to another state where they actually love the fact that you're there. They want to help your business grow and flourish. New Yorkers are going to be out of a job, faced with a decision. Do you uproot your family and move to that new state where that business is going to have to flee to? Or do you stay here and be out of a job altogether? And you have local communities that desperately rely on certain businesses to stay. So, if you're Remington Arms and you decide to leave your community for some other state, that impacts not just a family and families, that's an entire community that gets hurt. And our state really gets hurt when it all adds up. So I believe that it's foolish with this constant pursuit, this pandering, politicking where businesses are under attack, not playing out the obvious consequence of your policy. The business is just going to leave. And the New York economy is going to suffer, and New Yorkers are going to suffer.
This might be ignorance on my part. Is the firearm industry a big part of New York State's economy?
I believe that every business that exists inside of New York, if you're a small business, one business, you have 2 employees, you are a big part of New York's economy. The attitude of the governor of New York is one that values every single job. It's kind of like my advocacy on the veterans issue. I'm currently in my 19th year serving in the Army, and when I was in the state Senate, I created the PFC Joseph Dwyer program, a peer-to-peer support model for veterans of post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. One veteran lost is one too many. And when you are talking about economics, when you're talking about public safety, you're talking about kids inside of a school, you have to be valuing every single life, every single job, every single sacrifice. So I would not go out and look at any business anywhere in the state and say that that business isn't important for us to fight for, to help grow, prosper, and to stay here.
New York's obviously overwhelmingly blue from the top down. What makes you think now is the time that voters will look to Republicans? I mean, even with Governor Cuomo's scandals going on, you'd still have to imagine this is an uphill task for Republicans going forward.
You look at the alignment right now with that one-party Democrat rule at every single level, as I described. First time in my lifetime, it's Democrats totally in charge of DC, Albany, and New York City, and the status quo is not working. You have a whole lot of New Yorkers, Democrats as well, realizing that this doesn't work. As is, we need a change. Now for me, as Chairman Langworthy pointed out, I just won 7 consecutive races since 2010. Took out an incumbent Senate Democrat in 2010. And we're talking about purple New York City suburban districts. 2014, I had a Republican primary. Over $4 million was spent against me. We won by well over 20 points. We then went on that November and we took out an incumbent House Democrat. It was there for 12 years, 6 terms. That race in 2010, when I won that state Senate seat, between him and his father, they were there for 30 years. And as Chairman Langworthy pointed out, they were spending 7, 8 figures against me. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats every time trying to take me out. New York won, and we kept winning. We know how to get votes from people of all backgrounds. And there are Democrats and independents, people who are unaffiliated with any party right now, who are saying that public safety is going in the wrong direction and that we need that balance. People who are talking about their kids' education and the current status quo doesn't work for their family, or that cost of living which continues to increase. So what do? We continue to elect more of the same? You think things are going to get any better inside of New York? Or do you say, you know what, I've had enough. Enough. I'm going to take control of my family's destiny, my community's destiny, my state's destiny. I'm going to do my part. You can be frustrated in a complacency, or you could double down and triple down for your passion and your beliefs and your vision for your family. You're hitting your breaking point. The state's hitting theirs. And you don't have to just sit back and allow Andrew Cuomo to continue to selfishly try to earn his next Emmy Award or his next book deal at your expense. The governor said yesterday that he wants to tackle guns the way he tackled COVID. Is he trying to set himself up for his next book deal? Is he trying to win that next Emmy Award? I think his priorities are very much out of whack, and he thinks that this is the Cuomo show, 24/7, his words. He had a press conference last year, and Chris Cuomo was on. He said, on CNN, you have your hour. Here it's the Cuomo show 24/7. Well, New Yorkers are deciding it's over. We're done with the Cuomo show. And it's Democrats too who are saying that.
Do you believe in order to get those votes from Democrats in New York that you have to separate yourself from Donald Trump, or do you think you can get them while still being connected to the president?
I have always very proudly been my own man. And when I stand here talking about the need to reverse cashless bail, that's me talking. When I'm standing in front of you talking about the need to eliminate critical race theory from all of our schools, that our kids shouldn't be masked, that they shouldn't be required to get vaccines in order to go back into the classroom in September, they should be required to get the COVID vaccine in order to be able to walk in the front door. That's me talking right in front of you. And I could go item by item, priority by priority, whether it's healthcare and Medicaid efficiencies in order to make sure that we are taking care of New Yorkers the way a program is capable of truly, or taking care of our veterans who are desperately in need of a state that doesn't play games with their peer-to-peer support model. You know what Andrew Cuomo does when he puts out his executive budget each year? On this successful program, the PFC Joseph Dwyer program, instead of proposing an increase or proposing to keep funding steady, every single year, this is Andrew Cuomo's game, he proposes to totally defund the PFC Joseph Dwyer program each year. And then the veteran advocates all have to go to Albany and beg for this funding, which is absolutely saving countless lives all across this entire state. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna keep traveling the state, talking to New Yorkers about the issues that matter to them most. And we're gonna win this race by being focused on those issues that they care about passionately as they think about their own future here in this state. But for me, always have, always will be my own man. And these positions that I'm coming forth with, as we talk about here and will continue to talk about during the campaign, these are my ideas, working with others around me who care about New York and New York's future and wanting to do everything in their power, and that's why they're involved to save New York.
Thank you. We got a